Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of my podcast. This week, the reading was for the article K. This article was posted in 2019, and this article, the main topic is the building of a Black Confederate soldier monument at the South Carolina State House, and this was proposed by two legislators, Chumley and Burns, and basically they said that they wanted to erect this monument to memorialize the Black soldiers who fought for the Confederacy during the Civil War. Now, what is wrong with this monument?
It really boils down to 3 points. The first point that they talked about was it doesn't honor the actual mindset or motivation behind these Black folks joining and fighting for the Confederacy. It would only be honoring their bodies and the fact that they died for the Confederacy, which, if you know anything about the time period, these men who they claim to be freedmen who chose to fight for states' rights, that is most likely not true. At the time, slaves were not even allowed to bear arms, and if they were fighting, they were probably in a labor position, like a cook or a maid, or just being a slave at the time in picking tobacco, cotton, you name it. They were not on the front lines. And there already is debate about whether or not Black soldiers even existed and fought for the Confederacy, because they were so strict about letting them fight. The leading South Carolina historian, whose name is stated in the article, I don't have it right here, but he said that there is no recorded record of Black soldiers fighting for the Confederacy, and that's straight from the State House. The second point was that this memorial would give light to neo-Confederate ideologies, and by putting this memorial at the State House, giving the sentiment that these men fought because they loved their state and they thought the South was being oppressed, is just not true. Majority, if not all, the African Americans who were enslaved at the time knew what was going on, and they most likely did not support the Southern Confederacy. They just weren't allowed to say anything, because you can imagine what would happen if you were a slave and you spoke out or you refused to fight for the Confederacy. You would most likely be killed, and maybe your family as well. So by building this monument, you're kind of just like allowing racist people to continue to think racist thoughts, which does not promote racial healing at all. The third and final point was that this memorial would kind of give these white legislators a way to relieve their sense of white guilt. And white guilt was defined in this article as well, and it's defined as the feeling that a white person has of shame for what their ancestors did to African Americans, whether it be participating in minstrelsy or blackface, owning slaves, fighting for the Confederacy, you name it. It's the idea that some white people, because not all white people have white guilt. There's some really racist white people out there, but some level-headed, intelligent white people have white guilt, which is normal to have, but some people try to capitalize on this. And this is what Chumley and Burns tried to do, or supposedly are trying to do, because this bill is right back in office now. So instead of them building this monument for a good cause and saying that we want to build this statue of Black Confederate soldiers to remember them for how they felt, the trials and tribulations they went through, their motivation for joining, instead, it would be promoting themselves and their names in history so they could kind of breathe a sigh of relief, like, well, I'm one of the good ones, right? That's not the case. And by doing this, they're actually whitewashing and blackfacing history, which, for better words, means if they were to build this monument, they would be whitewashing history by only celebrating their bodies and not the experiences that they went through. And they would be blackfacing history because instead of promoting this racial healing and promoting the fact that these men gave their lives for statehood or whatever you want to call it, it would kind of just be like throwing them as a little side character to the white people in the war. And like there's no reason to build the monument when there's not even historical data to back up the fact that these soldiers even existed. So that was my review of the K article, and I thought it was a really good read. I agree with the author here. I agree that this monument should not be erected, and I also think that Chumley and Burns are trying to kind of relieve their white guilt by building this, and they don't really understand completely what the history is behind this, and I don't really think they care either. I think they just want it built. But yeah, overall, great article, and I'll see y'all in the next one.